Hi team, in this video we will see one of the most useful feature of HANA database, which is AMDP. We will also see what is top-down approach, what is bottom-up approach, what is code push-down. So if you are new to AMDP, you are at the right place. Let's get started. The full form of AMDP is ABAP Managed Database Procedure. Okay, let's see the definition. AMDP is a framework for managing and calling stored procedures or database procedures and database function in as ABAP. Okay, so as ABAP means ABAP application server. Okay, here our ABAP code executes. Okay, and this stored procedures and database procedures are same thing, just have two different names. Okay, and these procedures and functions are nothing but piece of code which is written on the database, which executes on the database. Okay, so let's read it again. AMDP is a framework for managing and calling piece of code written on the database, executes on the database, but managed from ABAP application server. Okay, so now you will be thinking, what is the difference between this procedure and the function? So let's get clear understanding what is the difference in the next slide. Okay, stored procedure do not return a value and are mainly used to perform operations like data modification, transaction management, etc. So what is this transaction management? When we perform so many operation as a unit, like if we transfer money from one account to another account, we are deducting money from one account and we are modifying the amount in another account. So these things are called transaction. If all operations are successful, we will commit it or we will roll back. Okay, so this is transaction and we use stored procedures to perform these transactions. Okay, and function return a value and are mainly used to fetch data or perform calculation. So if we see the difference is that do not return a value, stored procedures do not return a value, function return a value. Okay, so how we will get output in stored procedures? We can use export. Okay, can we use export here? We cannot use export here. Okay, we can also use changing here. Can we use changing here? We cannot use changing here. Okay, we can use import if you want to give some input to this procedure. Okay, can we use input here? Yes, we can use import. Okay, then what is the difference between this export and this return? What is the difference? So let's see the difference. In return, we can only give one value as output. Okay, and the second thing is that it is mandatory. Okay, but if we talk about export, we can give any number of output. Okay, and it is not mandatory. Okay, so if we want to create a procedure where there is no export value, we can create that. If we want to create a procedure where we want one output, we can create that. If we want to create a procedure where we want two output, we can create that. But every database function can only return one value. So this is the main difference. Okay, so now we will dive deeper into this implementation of AMDP. Okay, so if you are aware, SAP uses 3-tier architecture. Okay, what are they? We have presentation layer, then we have application layer where our ABAP code executes. Okay, then we have database layer. Okay, so if we talk about ECC work with multiple database. Okay, what are they? They are HANA database. We have Oracle database we can use with SAP ECC. We have IBM database. We have MaxDB. We have Sybase database. So there are multiple database we can use with ECC. Okay, and each of these database uses multiple languages to create these procedures and function. Okay, suppose if we talk about Oracle suppose C language to create this procedure. Oracle suppose JavaScript to create these procedures. Okay, so if we want to create some framework which supports every database and every language, we need two inputs. What are they? We need to provide database and the language which we want to use with their database. So in AMDP we do the same thing. We provide the database also and we provide language also. But SAP currently works with HANA database. AMDP only works with HANA database. Originally, they designed AMDP to work with multiple database, but as of now, it only works with HANA database, and HANA database uses SQL script. So it is designed, but it is not used. Okay. So why SAP did this? So maybe this is not written anywhere, but maybe SAP thought that it will always suppose multiple database, but from S4 HANA it limited the support to HANA database only. So that's why we are seeing this. We are always providing database but language which are constant. We didn't require to give any constant, okay, most of the time. So that is the reason, because SAP limited the database support to only HANA database from S4. Okay, so let's see the example implementation. Let's see example implementation of AMDP. Okay, we will go line by line, and if you see the first line, we have class. Okay, because AMDP is nothing but a class. Okay, then we have my AMDP underscore class. Okay, and here we can give any name which starts with Z or Y, just like normal ABAP. Then we have public section, and inside that we have interfaces if underscore AMDP underscore marker underscore DB type. Okay, so here we will always give HDB because AMDP only works with HANA database. Okay, and this line is mandatory. Okay, whether you are developing database procedure or database function, you need to write this line, because then only ABAP will understand this is not a normal class, this is an AMDP class. Okay, then you will declare all your methods, whether they are AMDP methods or normal method, you can use both of them. Okay, then in class implementation you will give implementation of all these declared methods. Okay, so if I see here method my AMDP method. Okay, here we have user by database procedure. If you are using database function, you will write by database function. Then we have for DB type. Okay, so for DB type we will always use HDB. Okay, this example is copied from official SAP documentation. That's why we have these variables. Okay, because originally it was developed for multiple database and multiple languages, but we are using with only HDB. Okay, then we have language. Okay, what are the language? So HDB supports SQL script, so we will always use SQL script here. Okay, in options we will use read only. Okay, in using we will give all the tables and views which we are using inside this method. We will also give our database procedures or database function if we are using inside this method, because you need to give everything, every data source which you are using inside this method here. Okay, else you will get an error. Okay, and this implementation will be in SQL script. Okay, you cannot use general ABAP here, if it will give you error. Okay, so if you focused here, you are basically writing SQL script on where? On ABAP application server. Okay, then you will push this code inside your database, which is HANA database. Okay, so that's why this is called code push down approach, because you are pushing your code to database. Okay, code push down approach. So let's see more about this code push down approach in our next slide. AMDP uses the code push down approach, which means complex tasks are shifted to the database layer for execution, leveraging database power for optimal performance and reducing unnecessary data transfer. Okay, so here we have two charts. One is for classical database and another is new approach which is used inside HANA database. Okay, so we will see both of them. So as usual, we have 3-tier architecture: presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. In this case, the database layer is only used to store the data. Okay, it cannot perform any kind of calculation or any operation. Okay, and we transfer the data to application layer to perform calculation, aggregation, all kind of data operations. Okay, so it is called data to code because we are giving data to application layer where we perform our operations like calculation, aggregations, all of that. Okay, so in our new approach, we have same thing: presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. The only difference is that in our database layer we can perform calculation, aggregation, and some kind of data operations. Okay, and we pass the result to the application layer. Okay, so from application layer we are giving code to database layer, and then database layer is performing all the calculation, aggregation, and giving the result to the application layer. That's why it is called code to data. Okay, so suppose in this case we are giving 2 GB data to application layer. Okay, then we are performing some calculation, aggregation, filtering on that data, and we are managing to get 2 MB of data which is usable to our use case. Okay, so in this case it will be 2 MB data transfer because we are performing all the calculation here and we are only transferring the result to the application layer. Okay, so what is the benefit of this reducing unnecessary data transfer? What is the benefit? So benefit is only that you are reducing the usage of your resources. Okay, so in computer science we always prefer efficiency because this unnecessary data transfer we are doing thousands of time, we are not doing one time. Okay, so everything saved is in a big picture is it is lot of things. Okay, so one thing which we are doing is reducing unnecessary data transfer. The another thing which we are doing is we are using in-memory capabilities of HANA database. Okay, as you know, HANA database is in-memory database. Okay, so it improves the performance. Okay, so if you are doing any kind of complex calculation, you can use this approach. Okay, so we are pushing the code inside the database layer and we are getting the result out of the database layer to the application layer. That's why it is called code push down approach. Okay, so now we will see what is top down approach, what is bottom up approach, what are the benefits in the next slide. AMDP also follows a top-down approach because database procedures are created and managed entirely from the ABAP application layer. Okay, as we have seen in our definition, AMDP is a framework for calling and managing database procedure and database function from application layer. Okay, so what is the difference in bottom-up approach? Okay, so in bottom-up approach, if we want to create any views or procedure, we need to create it inside our database layer. Okay, so then we can use native SQL. If you are using version less than 7.4 SP02, you need to use native SQL. Okay, OpenSQL will not work. So this native SQL is depend on your database. Okay, so this is the downside of it. Okay, so if you want to move this view to production or test system, you need to go through delivery unit. Okay, you need to go through delivery unit, and where you have written this native SQL, if you need to move this to that system, you need to use transport container, SAP HANA transport container. Okay, so this is the problem with bottom up approach. The developer needs to make sure that every time if he is doing any change, he or she is doing any change, all the things are in sync. Okay, if they do change here and forget to move this to production using this delivery unit, then they will get an error and they need to again do this transport. Okay, so this is very tedious, and to solve this SAP came with this top-down approach. Okay, but before discussing this top-down approach, we will see this this version where we can use proxy objects. Okay, so what are these proxy objects? So here same way, SAP HANA views and procedures we can create from database layer, and inside our SAP application server we can create proxy objects. Proxy objects are those objects which lets you access this database views and procedures with OpenSQL. Okay, so these things, this native SQL problem is solved, but still we need to go with delivery unit and this transport container, and developer needs to make sure everything stays in sync. Okay, so this is a complex lifecycle management. Okay, so to make simplify this, SAP came with top-down approach, and inside this top-down approach we have AMDP and CDS. Okay, and this is available for version 7.4 SP05. Okay, SP means support package. Okay, so AMDP, in AMDP, when you are working with AMDP, when you transport, you use CTS. What is CTS? CTS is change and transport system. Okay, so you only transport this application layer code to production, and when you call this AMDP for the first time, it will create a database procedure. Okay, so you don't need to manage these two things. You can only use this CTS to move your AMDP to production. Okay, and in CDS what happens, this when it is moved to production or it is activated, this HANA views are created automatically. Okay, this is until this is not called, this will be not generated. Okay, the database procedure will not be generated, but as soon as this CDS is moved or activated, the HANA view will be generated in the database layer. So this solves the one of the major problem that the developer need to be sync with everything, and it is a complex life cycle. So this simplifies the life cycle. That's why this top-down approach is better than this bottom-up approach. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's now see what you need to use AMDP. Okay, for editing and creating AMDP, you need HANA Studio or Eclipse. Okay, you can use ADT plugin with Eclipse, and you can use Eclipse also. Okay, and you need a supported system. You can check your database. Okay, as discussed, this AMDP only works with HANA database. Okay, so you need to make sure that you are on HANA database system. Okay, if you want to check programmatically that your system is supported for AMDP, you can use this constant call AMDP method, which is attribute of this CL underscore ABAP underscore DB feature class. Okay, so I have checked this, and this line is from official SAP documentation. So I have checked for both system. In my HANA supported HANA database system, I have this constants value 8. Okay, and in my ECC system where there is some another database, I don't have this constant. Okay, so for programmatically checking that your system is supported or not for AMDP, you might need to do some exceptional handling also. Okay, because if you try to access attribute which is not present, you might get some exception and dump. Okay, so if you are writing code for multiple system, you need to check this. Okay, so let's move ahead. Let's now see the rules for AMDP. Inside AMDP method implementation, ABAP will not work. Okay, so as already discussed, if you want to implement AMDP method, you should use SQL script. Okay, if you will write normal general ABAP, you will get an error. Okay, you should use SQL script. AMDP class are required to implement an interface if underscore AMDP underscore marker underscore HDB. This we have already discussed. AMDP class can contain AMDP methods and non-AMDP methods as well. This is also we have discussed. The parameter name client is reserved for future enhancement. Okay, so if you use client as input parameter, import parameter, export parameter or change parameter, you will get an error. Okay, if you want to take client as input, you can use I underscore client or you can use any other name for it. Okay, in my tutorial I have used this client and I have got this error. Then I have changed it to I_client and we were able to activate it. An AMDP method must not be empty. Okay, if you are creating any general ABAP method, you can keep it empty and you can implement it later. But in AMDP method, if you leave it empty, you will get an error. So you need some kind of implementation to activate it. Okay, and only DML, no DDL. Okay, DML means data manipulation language and DDL means data definition language. Okay, so here we have all the operations like select, update, delete, all kinds of things here. Okay, and here we have like alter table, drop table, this kinds of things. So this is not allowed. This is not allowed. Need to mention using data sources. So as we have seen, we have one clause using, then we can write our database tables and views which we have used inside our procedure or function, database function or database procedure, else we will get an error. Even if we are using another procedure or function, we should use here. Okay, we should use the name of the function or procedure here. Then we have need to mention using data sources. We have seen this. The parameter must be declared for pass by value using value. Okay, so we have one keyword using value. Okay, we need to use this. Pass by reference is not allowed. If you are aware about function module, there we get two options. One is pass by value and another is pass by reference. Okay, so as we are moving from application layer to database layer, there we don't have reference to those variables, so we cannot use pass by reference. We must use value, pass by value. Okay, so AMDP class can only be created in ADT tool. As we have seen, we need HANA Studio or Eclipse with ADT plugin. Okay, SA24 cannot be used to create or edit the AMDP class, but we can view. Okay, in SA24, if you open any AMDP method, you can see, but you cannot edit. Okay, if you want to debug also, you cannot debug from there. You cannot see the variables AMDP inside SQL script. You can only see those variables in our HANA Studio or Eclipse. Okay, let's move ahead. So now we have a question: when to use AMDP? Can I use AMDP all the times? Can I replace all of my select queries with AMDP? So answer is no. AMDP should be used when a large volume of data is spread across multiple tables and complex calculation or filters need to be applied. The use of AMDP is not recommended if the same task can be achieved using ABAP SQL or ABAP CDS. Okay, so you should prefer ABAP SQL, then CDS. Then in this two method, if you are not able to achieve the requirement, then you should use AMDP. Okay, so these things are from official documentation, so don't worry about this. And if you are using AMDP for single query, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, because it is not reducing any kind of data transferred. Okay, and you are also not using any special HANA database in memory capabilities. Okay, if you are performing some kind of calculation in AMDP method, then only you should do this. Okay, because ABAP SQL can do most of the things, so you should not go to AMDP. Okay, and then we have one example. If you want to avoid select query in loop without fetching everything on application server. Okay, and sometimes if we want to remove this select from the loop, we use select star or select required fields before the loop. Okay, we use select before the loop, and then inside the loop we use the read entries. Okay, and then perform some operations and loop. Okay, so if you want to eliminate this, you can use AMDP, because in AMDP you can also use loops, if conditions, all of that. Okay, we will see. So let's move forward. Let's now see benefits of AMDP. No direct database access is required to create and manage procedures. We have seen this. AMDP use top-down approach and code push-down approach. That's why we can manage and call database procedure and database function from as a web application server. Okay. No specific transport system is required because we are using top-down approach. Okay. Reduces unnecessary data transfer. So we have seen this also. Helps to leverage SAP HANA databases in-memory computing capabilities for significantly faster data processing. So we have seen this also. So we will move forward. If you are still here, congratulations. Now you know what is AMDP, how it does work, what is code push down, what is top down approach, what is bottom up approach. I hope you understood everything. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in comments. Bye.